Investors contemplate their future under a UK Labour government. Welcome to Market Insight. I'm Ramzan Karmali. Well, after 14 years of often tumultuous rule, the Conservative Party now find themselves in opposition. And perhaps investors were hopeful that the incoming government can provide a period of economic stability, as the domestically focused FTSE 250 index rose by well over 1%. Well, to help us look into the market reaction to the UK election result, I'm joined by Nick Shenton, Fund Manager of Artemis UK Income. Nick, thanks so much for joining us. So what have you made of the reaction of the markets? Why do you think domestic stocks are doing so well today? Has anything really changed overnight?
Well, you use the word stability, and we think that's probably the right way to frame this, that markets welcome stability. We've had significant instability for a number of years in the UK, perhaps culminating with the challenges around the mini budget in the autumn of 22. And actually, when we look at the market reaction today, we think it's pretty stable as well. This is a largely expected victory, and markets have shown a little bit of rotation at the margin, but we think this is actually a sign of positivity, in contrast to experiences in the past and in other financial markets where uncertainty has caused significant volatility, say in France recently. So let's chalk this up as a small victory for the UK to show some stability again to the world.
But why in particular is the FTSE 250 doing so much better than, say, the FTSE 100 today? The FTSE 100's barely moved.
We're long-term investors, and we're looking to compound our co-investors' wealth over a long period of time. So 1% on a day, actually, when you look at moves in recent times, is not that out of kilter. Very simply, we would say when you have stability and you have belief in an economy, then the currency should be a bit stronger, and flows may at the margin be a bit more positive into the domestic economy. So it's quite normal, we think, to see the mid-cap domestic focused index up modestly more than the more international FTSE 100, which is more exposed to currency fluctuations. And with sterling being modestly stronger in recent times, it makes sense to us. However, I just emphasize again, it's not a dramatic move in the context of what we have seen in markets in recent years.
Now, which sectors do you think will benefit most from a Labour government?
We are very fortunate, privileged in our position that we get to spend a lot of time with the UK's main business leaders, and the message consistently has been that this is a more engaged potential regime than recent ones led by the Conservative Party. And so overall, it is a positive, we think, for business in the UK. Now, clearly in the short term, markets will focus on areas like house building, and there have been some flows into house building stocks. But we think overall, the key element is actually reducing the political risk premium that's been associated with the UK since Brexit, which, by the way, is more of an emotive response, we think, than factual based or fact based, because the UK economy has not been an outlier in terms of worst performance since Brexit. Unemployment is low, savings rates are high, consumer confidence is improving. So overall, we think this is another positive tick in the box for international capital to come back to the UK.
You mentioned their house builders. The shares of all of house builders are up today. Do you think they're encouraged by Labour's plans to build 1.5 million more new homes? And do you think that's a realistic aim?
Well, I think it's a very fair question to ask. And a large part of our job is assessing the probability of execution. So if there's an opportunity, can a company execute on it? The reality is it is very hard to build a significant number of new homes in the UK. We can see that Labour are committed to trying to increase the number of new homes being built, but so will the Conservative Party. The first 100 days will really spell out their commitment to causes. Regarding housing in particular, we know that the challenge is NIMBYism, which is understandable from many senses, but it is a challenge not just for building more homes in the UK, but for decarbonisation. As we talk about a huge investment required in the energy grid to transport energy around the country. And that constantly runs up against planning objections. That's perhaps the bigger challenge, which is harder to overcome.
Now, on the whole, Nick, it sounds like you're pretty positive about the new government in terms of bringing stability. But are there any areas that you are concerned about? Are there any sectors that you think might suffer under a Labour government?
Politicians may sit at the top of the table in terms of communicating to our society how we're going to run ourselves, but bond markets really determine the outcomes. And we've had stability come to the UK ever since the challenges of the mini budget, as I say, in autumn 22. We just think overall that has brought politics to the centre, and where traditionally there may have been concerns over a Labour government, we think they are much more committed to wealth creation and growth than perhaps previous incarnations. And nowhere is this clearer than, again, coming back to this need to decarbonise our energy infrastructure and to generate better energy security for the UK. So actually, we see significant opportunities for some of the businesses in the UK that can invest to create that future. From a stock market perspective, if this attracts in international investors who have been sorely missed for a number of years in the UK, that will be a positive thing for the UK stock market.
Nick, what about the risk of rising debt, though?
Yes, it's a real issue, and it exists across all Western democracies. Again, this is why we make the point that the bond markets rule things, and that has brought politics in the UK to the centre and a focus on, well, how do we grow our way out of this debt issue? You can't cut your way to glory. You have to make a pro-business environment to create wealth. That is the essence of raising standards of living in the UK. And we think that's actually quite a helpful construct for politics in the UK.
Nick Shenton from Artemis, many thanks for your thoughts. And that's Market Insight. Don't forget you can watch more videos on Reuters.com.